Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. India's stark warning. Speaking at the 20th India-Iran Joint Commission meeting, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar says it's not our intention to escalate, but if attacked, India's response would be very, very strong. Indian government briefs political parties on Operation Sindoor. A united opposition hails the strike on terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. India asks its states to stay alert in the wake of Operation Sindoor. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh cautions all not to fall prey to fake news and disinformation campaigns being spread online. Uncertainty prevails as a three-day ceasefire called by Russia comes into force. Ukraine dismisses it as theatrics, asks for a 30-day truce instead. South Korea claims that North Korea fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast, possibly in performance tests for export. Japan strongly condemns the missile launch. The government convened an all-party meeting for a briefing on Operation Sindoor in the Indian Parliament. During the meeting, chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, the leaders were briefed by the government on the operation. Union Ministers Amit Shah, Dr. S. Jaishankar, J.P. Nadda and Nirmala Sitharaman represented the government, while Rahul Gandhi and Mallikarjun Kharge from the Congress attended the meet, among other political party leaders. Leaders cutting across party lines have lauded Operation Sindoor and expressed pride in the armed forces' action against terrorists.
हमारे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स ने मैच्योरिटी दिखाया है। ऐसे वक्त में जब देश एक बहुत बड़ी चुनौती को हाथ में लेकर के काम कर रहे हैं, तो इसमें राजनीति का कोई जगह नहीं है। ये हमारे पूरे पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज ने दर्शाया है और सब लीडर्स ने एक मत से हमारे सेनाओं ने जो कार्रवाई की है ऑपरेशन सिंदूर को लेकर के पूरे बधाई भी दिया और गौरव का एहसास सबको हुआ है और सबने एक जुट में कहा है कि सरकार का हर निर्णय को साथ देंगे, सेना की हर कार्रवाई को साथ देंगे और कोई इसमें विरोधाभास नहीं है।
हम सभी जितने भी पार्टी के लोग थे, सभी ने ये बताया कि इस घड़ी में, इस संकट के घड़ी में हम सब आपके साथ हैं और आप जो काम कर रहे हैं करते रहिए और देश के हित में हम आपके साथ रहेंगे।
आज के ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग में मैंने कॉम्प्लीमेंट किया हमारी आर्म फोर्सेस को और भारत सरकार को कि उन्होंने एक ऑपरेशन सिंदूर को अंजाम दिया। मैंने अपनी बात में ये कहा कि एक इंटरनेशनल कैंपेन हमको चलाना चाहिए टीआरएफ के खिलाफ और ख़ास तौर से सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल इसको डिजिग्नेट करे और हमको यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका को ये बताना है कि वो अपने ही मुल्क में इसको फॉरेन टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डिजिग्नेट करे।
This meeting comes a day after Indian armed forces carried out targeted strikes at terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The coordinated strikes were in response to the April 22nd terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, when a group of terrorists gunned down 26 civilians, including one Nepali citizen. So, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval met Prime Minister Narendra Modi at his residence in New Delhi. According to sources, the National Security Advisor briefed the Prime Minister on the current situation. The meeting came a day after India struck at terror sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. On Wednesday, NSA Ajit Doval had reached out to several counterparts across the globe on actions taken against terrorist infrastructure in retaliation for the Pahalgam terror attack. He had asserted that India has no intent to escalate the situation, but it is well prepared to retaliate resolutely if Pakistan decides to escalate the situation. And DD India correspondent Dibendu Mondal joins us for more on the all-party meeting. Dibendu, what all has the centre briefed the political parties about the terror strikes against Pakistan? Has any more information about Operation Sindoor come out in terms of the number of terrorists killed and so on?
Tanvi, what is important here to be noted is that both Defence Minister Rajnath Singh as well as Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju, who were present in the meeting, did say that Operation Sindoor is still underway and therefore much operational details will not be given out. And this was also clearly told to all the political parties in the all-party meeting that has been held, that the operations is still underway, and therefore operational details are something that cannot be shared with all the political parties at this moment. And therefore, but however, the meeting which was chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh did give them a brief details and did brief them about how Operation Sindoor was successfully delivered, and how our armed forces precisely targeted those terror camps that were operating from inside Pakistan as well as Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and how coordinated efforts by all the three branches of the Indian Armed Forces did coordinatedly did this operation, and how successful it was. And therefore we also heard the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge did say that the operational details will of course be withheld with the government for the time being, because the operation is still underway, and therefore all important details or something that could in the interest of the country and in the interest of the sovereignty of India cannot be given out, and therefore many of the details have been withheld. But however, having said this, Tanvi, it seemed in the all-party meeting, which was also reflected from both the opposition as well as the government side, that the country stands united. And all political parties, irrespective of their ideologies, irrespective of their opinions, they stand together with India, with the armed forces and with the government on any action they take to weed out terrorism, to weed out terror camps that operates from within the borders of Pakistan and within the land of Pakistan, and give a befitting reply to what their proxy wars that Pakistan has been raising against India for decades. This was indeed a befitting reply to them, because remember, one of the sites that were attacked in fact by India last morning, in fact on the intervening night of 6th and 7th, was the Bahawalpur Markaz Masjid, which has been the headquarters of Jaish-e-Mohammed, and it was also the headquarters of Hafiz Saeed, who operated from that particular area. And therefore bringing that down was perhaps a justice to the victims of 26/11 of 2001 Parliament attack, and also to the victims of Pahalgam, Balakot as well as Uri. And therefore the precision strikes was something that all the opposition parties have clearly lauded the government, and all action that the government has been taking against Pakistan has been lauded by the political parties.
Yes,
and it shows
India standing united in this hour of need. Thank you very much, Dibendu Mondal, for giving us the latest on this story. The latest video footage of damaged buildings have reiterated India's stand of precision and lethal strike in many terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Destruction was clearly visible at the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba in Muridke, town of Pakistan's Punjab province. Markaz Taiba in Nangal Sehdan town in Muridke was destroyed in the strikes. Latest satellite images also show the destruction in Muridke city in Pakistan's Punjab province. Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters in Pakistani city of Bahawalpur in Punjab province was also reduced to rubble. The facility is linked to JEM founder and terror mastermind Masood Azhar. A Pakistani man busted Pakistani leaders' tall claims about shooting down Indian Air Force aircrafts. He exposed the gaping holes in Pakistan's air defense systems while embossing false narratives being set on the social media.
इंडिया ने जो टारगेट सेट किया हुआ था, इंडिया ने वो टारगेट अचीव किया और इससे बढ़ के हैरानगी की बात यह है कि पाकिस्तान का दिफाई निजाम, हमारा डिफेंस सिस्टम एक भी मिसाइल को इंटरसेप्ट नहीं करता। दूसरी अफवाह ये फैलाई जा रही थी, सारी रात को पाकिस्तानी मीडिया लगा हुआ था, सोशल मीडिया के ऊपर तमाम झूठ पॉलिसियां लगे हुए थे, वो पाकिस्तान ने इंडिया के जहाज गिरा दी हैं। वो सारी पिक्चर्स मैंने देखी, कोई 8 महीने पुरानी है, कोई 3 साल पुरानी है। हमने इंडिया का वो जनरल हेडक्वार्टर गिरा दिया, पता नहीं क्या गिरा दिया। वो मैंने सर्च किया, वो भी फेक न्यूज फैलाई हुई।
India's enemies remain relentless, whether along the borders or in cyberspace, but the nation stands prepared. The Indian government is acting with resolve, fortifying our defense not just with weapons but with truth. From exposing misinformation to dismantling Pakistan-backed propaganda networks, every step is aimed at safeguarding citizens from psychological warfare as well.
After India's strike on 9 terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, a parallel conflict has unfolded on social media with fake videos, misleading images and unverified claims flooding platforms like X and Facebook. The Indian government's fact-check unit under the Press Information Bureau has ramped up its effort to debunk false narratives being circulated online. The government has urged people to avoid sharing unverified information and rely only on official sources.
जो फेक न्यूज़ है, हमारा देश का एकता को कमजोर करने के लिए कई गलत नैरेटिव्स या फेक न्यूज़ चलाने का प्रयास कर रहा है, इसका मुद्दा सामने में आया है और हम अपील करना चाहते हैं कि ऐसे समय में कोई फेक न्यूज़ गलत तरीके से नैरेटिव कोई अगर चलाते हैं बाहर से देश के अंदर में, तो उसको विश्वास ना करें और कोई भी न्यूज़ ऑथेंटिक हो तभी इसको विश्वास करें।
What started as a focused and effective military operation by the Indian Armed Forces has now spiraled into a chaotic online propaganda rift. Pakistan-based handles are tagging old videos to falsely claim a strike on a military base in Amritsar. Debunking these false claims, PIB said that the video being shared is from a wildfire last year. Pakistani social media accounts are recycling this old video claiming a hit for Pakistani forces. PIB's fact check, however, found that the video dates back to 2019 when an Indian Air Force helicopter crashed near Budgam, Jammu and Kashmir. Demolishing Pakistan's claim of shooting down an Indian fighter jet, PIB clarified that the video being shared is from February 2025 and depicts the crash of an Indian Air Force Mirage 2000 aircraft near Shivpuri, Gwalior, which occurred during a routine training mission. Pro-Pakistan social media handles and even influential political figures are deliberately spreading fake news, fabricating stories of miraculous military victories and heroic retaliation that simply do not exist. Their goal is clear: to flood the information space with falsehoods so quickly and overwhelmingly that it becomes difficult to separate fact from fiction. This goes beyond mere misinformation. It's a deliberate, orchestrated effort to warp reality, mislead the masses, and shape public perception to serve a specific agenda. In a blatant effort to hijack the narrative and distract from the reality on the ground, Pakistan's state-affiliated accounts have turned to their familiar playbook, recycling outdated images, misrepresenting old videos, and inventing completely fabricated claims. However, the Indian government has taken decisive steps to combat misinformation by banning several Pakistani social media platforms known for spreading false narratives. But new mischievous ones keep cropping up every now and then. Bureau Report, DD India.
Major world leaders have supported India in its fight against terrorism. Operation Sindoor struck terror camps deep inside Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Top global officials have also expressed their concern over Pakistan's constant support to terrorism. A report.
In response to the terror attack targeting tourists in Pahalgam on April 22nd, India launched Operation Sindoor on the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir on Wednesday. Leaders across the world have supported India's firm stand in fight against terror. US President Donald Trump said that people knew based on some of the past experience that something was going to happen. He hoped that the fighting would end soon. Israeli ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, took to social media platform X. He wrote, Israel supports India's right to self-defense. Terrorists should know that there is no place to escape from their heinous crimes against innocents. France's Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs on Wednesday said it supports India in its fight against terrorist groups. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot has also called on India and Pakistan to exercise restraint. Speaking in the UK House of Commons, Member of Parliament Priti Patel condemned the April 22nd Pahalgam terror attack and called on the British government to strengthen counter-terror cooperation with India. Patel also highlighted the importance of UK's security cooperation with India.
This is clearly a precarious moment, and we want to see tensions ease between India and Pakistan. We want to avoid a state-on-state military escalation. We're also clear that India has the right to take reasonable and proportionate steps to defend itself and to dismantle the vile terrorist infrastructure that has caused death and continues to threaten them. And we know that terrorists based in Pakistan threaten India and Western interests. It was the country that Osama bin Laden was hiding in. And because of the long history of violence inflicted by terrorists on India, the UK has in place long-standing security cooperation agreements with India.
UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy in a statement said UK was clear in its condemnation of horrific terrorist attack in Pahalgam last month. He added that UK needs all sides to work urgently to see regional stability restored and ensure protection of civilians. Former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak strongly supported India in its fight against terrorism, saying, no nation should have to accept terrorist attacks being launched against it from land controlled by another country. He added that India is justified in striking terrorist infrastructure. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' spokesperson said that UN chief is very concerned and has called on both nations to exercise maximum military restraint. Netherlands MP Geert Wilders, while extended his support to India, wrote on X that Kashmir is 100% Indian, using hashtag Pakistan behind Pahalgam. Panama, a non-permanent UNSC member, has issued a statement saying it stands in solidarity with India in the ongoing fight against terrorism. Other countries, including Russia, UAE and Japan, also stood by India in its fight against zero tolerance to terrorism. Bureau Report, DD India.
And I'm now joined by our esteemed guest, Prabhu Dayal, former Indian Consul General in Pakistan, for more perspective. Welcome, sir, to the program. Internationally, leaders across the world have supported India's right to self-defense. Would you agree that Pakistan stands very much isolated and largely bereft of international support at this point in time? Also, that Pakistan is increasingly becoming a pariah state.
Well, Tanvi, thanks for having me on your show. You're absolutely right in saying that the world community is standing behind India in our fight against terrorism. And you have also correctly termed Pakistan as a pariah country, pariah state, because of the fact that it is seen to be a hotbed of terrorism. It is now well established that Pakistan has been using state-sponsored terrorism, especially against India. But there are indications that there are global manifestations of Pakistan's terrorist activities. In this particular instance, the Pahalgam terror attack, the world was aghast. And that is why a whole host of countries have come out openly in support of India. And these have included the United States, the United Kingdom, Israel, Russia, Japan. These are all major global players, and they have all spoken out against the Pahalgam terror attack. And indeed, there is a finger of accusation which is being directly or indirectly pointed at Pakistan, from where the terrorists came. So it is no secret from anybody that Pakistan engages in terrorism, and that is why it is being condemned globally.
On the political front at home, an all-party meet was held today. Sir, tell us the significance of this meet and of the opposition extending its full support to the government as it combats cross-border terrorism from Pakistan.
Well, you know, it is extremely important for our country to stay united and to appear united. At a critical time like this, differences would be unpardonable. And I'm so happy that all sections of the political spectrum have shown support, not just for the armed forces, but also for the government. You know, there are people who are known to be critics of Prime Minister Modi's government, but all of them were unanimous in voicing their support for what the government is doing to avenge the terror attack in Pahalgam, because it is very, very important for the country to stand together in this very, very important hour. Now, for instance, I heard Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi speak. Now, he is a very vocal critic of the government, but it is very, very important that he spoke in favor of the steps which the government has taken. Similarly, leaders of the Congress party also voiced their support. So it shows that India is standing together against the enemy, and that enemy is terror. Of course, everyone knows where that enemy is established, which are the places where it has foothold. So if the government of India is striking at the terror camps and the terror foothold, it is significant that the whole country stands behind, not just behind the armed forces, but also behind the government.
Indeed. Now, India continues to extend its diplomatic outreach after Operation Sindoor, with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval talking to senior officials from the UK, Russia, China, Japan, Saudi Arabia and others. Could you tell us about the significance of this global diplomatic outreach?
Well, there are two aspects which are very, very important in regard to the National Security Advisor's global outreach. Firstly, he has been highlighting to his counterparts from other countries that India has adopted the method of non-escalatory measures. In other words, we are not wanting to escalate. We have only targeted the terrorist camps. But at the same time, the second message which he has conveyed is that in case Pakistan wants to escalate, India is prepared to take on the challenge. So what has been very, very important is the nature of the Indian attack in response to the Pahalgam terror attack has been clearly spelled out and has been conveyed to national security advisors of countries that matter. The fact that what we did at 9 sites in Pakistan was very important because these all were terrorist camps. And not only did it show to the world that we have knowledge of where these terrorist camps are, but also the fact that we did not attack military sites or sites which are of economic importance to Pakistan or civilian areas. We just targeted the terrorist camps. We do not wish to escalate, but at the same time, it is important for everyone to know that in case Pakistan wants to escalate, we are ready to do so.
Also, let's talk a little bit about disinformation, which Pakistan is now engaging in on a huge scale. The government has, of course, already cautioned people and continues to caution to rely only on official sources from the government of India for accurate information. But is there something more you'd like to add, sir, to that warning in the context of Operation Sindoor?
You know, Pakistan should really be renamed Jhutistan because it is a hotbed of lies. Now, following India's precision strikes against terrorist camps under Operation Sindoor, Pakistan has unleashed a full-blown disinformation offensive, and particularly on social media, because it is making a desperate attempt to shift the focus from the ground reality to what it wants the world to believe. Now, Pakistan is making a coordinated effort to mislead the media, distort the global narrative, and manipulate public perception in the wake of India's successful operation, in which, as I said, 9 terrorist targets in Pakistan were attacked and destroyed. So Pakistan is trying to create the illusion of a strong counter response because perhaps it is trying to sell this narrative to its own people who want to see the army being, strong in such a crisis. But frankly speaking, the narrative of the Pakistani establishment is completely false.
So India is alert for any kind of warfare, both militarily and psychologically, with these fake news being spread. Thank you very much, Prabhu Dayalji, for being on the show and giving us your analysis on the subject, how one needs to be ready to counter these fake news. Now, in news just in, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting with secretaries of various ministries and departments of the Government of India to review national preparedness and inter-ministerial coordination in the light of recent developments concerning national security. Prime Minister Modi stressed the need for seamless coordination among ministries and agencies to uphold operational continuity and institutional resilience. Prime Minister Modi reviewed the planning and preparation by ministries to deal with the current situation. Secretaries have been directed to undertake a comprehensive review of their respective ministries' operations and to ensure foolproof functioning of essential systems with special focus on readiness, emergency response and internal communication protocols. All ministries have identified their actionable references in relation to the conflict and are strengthening processes. Ministries are ready to deal with all kinds of emerging situations. A range of issues were discussed during the meeting. These included, among others, strengthening of civil defense mechanisms, efforts to counter misinformation and fake news, and ensuring the security of critical infrastructure. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for continued alertness, institutional synergy, and clear communication as the nation navigates a very sensitive period. In more news from New Delhi, Iranian Foreign Minister Dr. Abbas Araghchi is on a 2-day visit to India. The visiting dignitary held talks with India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and co-chaired the 20th India-Iran Joint Commission meeting today. In his opening remarks at the meeting, Minister Jaishankar said that India-Iran cooperation has progressed in many aspects, noting that the two countries are celebrating 75th anniversary of their diplomatic ties.
Excellency, it's a great pleasure to welcome you and your delegation to India and to co-chair along with you the 20th India-Iran Joint Commission meeting today. In recent years, our cooperation has progressed in many aspects. There are also situations that we need to address. Prime Minister Modi and President Pezeshkian have met in Kazan in October 2024 and given us guidance on how to develop our ties further. They've also had a phone conversation on 26 April. Excellency, this is the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic ties. It is a reminder of the closeness of our collaboration and the deep friendship between us. I'm sure that we will mark the anniversary appropriately.
Further, Dr. S. Jaishankar underscored that Araghchi's visit is happening at a time when India is responding to a particularly barbaric attack on April 22nd in Jammu and Kashmir, leading it to respond on May 7th by striking at the cross-border terrorist infrastructure. The minister added that India has no intention to escalate the situation, adding that if there are military attacks on India, there should be no doubt that it will be met with a very, very strong response.
Excellency, you are visiting India at a time when we are responding to a particularly barbaric terrorist attack on 22nd April in the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This attack compelled us to respond on 7th May by striking at cross-border terrorist infrastructure. Our response was targeted and measured. It is not our intention to escalate the situation. However, if there are military attacks on us, there should be no doubt that it will be met with a very, very firm response. As a neighbor and a close partner, it is important that you have a good understanding of the situation. Once again, a very warm welcome to Delhi, and I invite you for your opening remarks.
Earlier, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met with Saudi Arabia's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Adel Al-Jubair, in New Delhi on Thursday. During the talks, Jaishankar shared India's perspectives on firmly countering terrorism with his Saudi counterpart. You're watching the India News Hour. Still to come on the show. 3 Israeli hostages in Gaza, previously thought to be alive, may have been dead, leaving 21 definitely alive, informs Benjamin Netanyahu. And all eyes on the Sistine Chapel chimney as the conclave to decide the next pope enters day 2, cardinals to begin second day of voting. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Our top stories at this hour. India's stark warning. Speaking at the 20th India-Iran Joint Commission meeting, Dr. S. Jaishankar says it is not our intention to escalate, but if attacked, India's response would be very, very strong. Indian government briefs political parties on Operation Sindoor. A united opposition hails the strike on terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. India asks its states to stay alert in the wake of Operation Sindoor. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh cautions all not to fall prey to fake news and disinformation campaigns being spread online. Uncertainty prevails as a 3-day ceasefire called by Russia comes into force. Ukraine dismisses it as theatrics, asks for a 30-day truce instead. North Korea fired at least one unidentified ballistic missile about a week after Pyongyang tested a new destroyer. Japan condemns the launch. So North Korea fired at least one unidentified ballistic missile about a week after Pyongyang tested a new destroyer. Pyongyang fired unidentified ballistic missiles into the East Sea, which is also known as the Sea of Japan. The launch came about a week after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered Navy vessels to be speedily armed with nuclear weapons as the country conducted its first test firing of a new warship weapon system. North Korea's neighboring nation, South Korea, called the firing of missiles a performance test for various projectiles for export. They further said that Seoul is closely communicating with the United States and Japan to share information about the launch.
배경이나 의도에 대해서는 분석하고 있습니다.
We are currently analyzing the background and intent behind these launches. However, it is assessed that the launch may have been to test the performance and flight stability of missiles intended for export.
위한 실험일 수도 있다고 평가하고 있습니다.
Meanwhile, Japan has strongly condemned North Korea's launch of ballistic missiles. Japanese government spokesperson Yoshimasa Hayashi said that one of the missiles fell in the Sea of Japan east of the Korean peninsula, outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone.
North Korea's actions, including its repeated launches of ballistic missiles, threaten the peace and security of Japan's region and the international community. The launch of such ballistic missiles violates relevant Security Council resolutions and is a serious issue concerning the safety of Japanese people. Our country has strongly condemned this launch, protesting the North Korean action through the embassy in Beijing.
Onto the South China Sea now. The Philippines and China accused each other on Thursday of a maritime confrontation around the contested shoal in South China Sea. A Philippine Navy patrol near the disputed Scarborough Shoal encountered aggressive and unsafe movements by two Chinese Navy vessels earlier this week, the Philippine military said. It further added that such threatening and provocative conduct can lead to misunderstanding, escalating tensions. Meanwhile, Chinese military accused the Philippine frigate of attempting to invade the waters around the feature. The Scarborough Shoal, a triangular chain of reefs and rocks in the contested South China Sea, has been a flashpoint between the two countries. And on to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now. Russian President Vladimir Putin's proposed three-day ceasefire starting Thursday coincides with Moscow's Victory Day parade on Friday. Ukraine never agreed to the proposal and dismissed it as theatrics and called instead for a 30-day ceasefire. For the past 3 days, Moscow and Kiev staged aerial attacks, prompting airport closures in Russia. The attacks triggered hours of chaos late Tuesday and Wednesday, with temporary airport closures in Moscow and its surrounding regions. The Kremlin said Russian forces will honor Putin's order for the duration of the holiday, but will respond immediately if Ukraine launches any fire. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky renewed his call for a 30-day ceasefire in his evening address on Wednesday.
It is absolutely fair that the Russian sky, the sky of the aggressor, is also uneasy today in a mirror-like way. Ukraine's proposal to cease strikes and establish at least a 30-day ceasefire remains in force. We are not withdrawing this proposal, which could give diplomacy a chance. But from Russia, the world sees no response. No response except for new strikes. This clearly and obviously demonstrates to everyone who the source of the conflict is.
US Vice President J.D. Vance said that the Trump administration wanted Russia and Ukraine to agree on some guidelines for talking to each other directly, which would be necessary to end the conflict.
Obviously, the United States is happy to participate in those conversations, but it's very important for the Russians and the Ukrainians to start talking to one another. We think that is the next big step that we would like to take. And why does that matter? The reason it matters is because, again, I mentioned the Russians, but also the Ukrainians have also been they've put a piece of paper in our hands that says this is what we would need in order to bring this conflict to a successful resolution from our perspective.
New satellite footages have been released on Wednesday showing the extent of damage on Sana'a International Airport in Yemen after the Israeli military carried out an airstrike. The Israeli military struck Yemen's main airport in Sana'a on Tuesday, its second attack in 2 days on Houthis after the group launched a missile attack near Israel's Ben Gurion airport. Israeli forces inspected the scene of the shooting attack on Wednesday near Rayyan crossing in the West Bank. In a statement following the attack, Israeli Defense Forces said that an assailant fired at IDF soldiers conducting operational activity in the area. 2 were believed to be seriously injured. A gunman opened fire on troops in a vehicle while they were operating near the Rayyan checkpoint in the northern West Bank. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a video on Wednesday where he said that 3 Israeli hostages in Gaza, previously thought to be living, may be dead, leaving 21 definitely believed to be alive. Netanyahu's statement confirmed comments made by US President Donald Trump on Tuesday that 24 hostages were alive a week ago, but the figure was now 21.
Look, we know for certain that 21 are alive. That's not in dispute. There are 3 others where, unfortunately, it's uncertain whether they are alive. So the definite number we are stating is 21. We are not giving up on anyone, not on the three, and not on any of the others. We want to bring them all home. We still face major challenges. Iran, for example, is a huge challenge. We never forget that. Not for a moment. But we have strength in our own hands, and we will defend ourselves by ourselves.
President Donald Trump's recent announcement about contemplating tariffs on foreign-made films has sent shockwaves not just in Hollywood but through the global film industry. Filmmakers are confused about the impact of these tariffs. A report.
Trump declared his intentions to impose 100% tariff on all movies produced outside the United States. The statement left filmmakers from Canada to Australia in disbelief, fearing the potential impact on their industries. France's culture minister has vowed to protect the country's film sector from Trump's threats. France has a robust system of taxes and quotas that supports domestic filmmaking, and officials are determined to defend it. The minister emphasized that Trump's tariffs could ultimately harm the American film industry as well. Amidst all this confusion, the British government says it is in active discussions with US officials.
I can tell the House that we are already in active discussions with the top of the US administration on this subject. We are absolutely clear that the deep ties between the US and UK film industries provide mutual benefits to both countries. Productions are, by their very nature, international partnerships, which are often developed and created across different countries and locations. Indeed, US movies are often multinational precisely because US movies earn far more overseas than they do domestically in the United States of America.
Cameron Bailey, CEO of the Toronto International Film Festival, highlighted the long-standing cultural ties between Canada and the US film industries despite the current tensions.
Well, it's early days. Right now, all we have is a social media post and a lot of speculation. So we don't know what this will really turn into. But what I do know, what we see every year, every day really here at TIFF, is that there is a really tightly integrated cultural union between Canada and the US when it comes to film and TV as well. Hollywood itself has always been, since very early days, an international industry.
In Latin America, confusion reigned as industry leaders sought clarity on what these tariffs would mean for their work. Argentine producer Axel Kuchwatsky, known for his Oscar-winning film The Secret in Their Eyes, expressed the need to understand the specifics of the proposed measures. Similarly, Mariana Souza, president of the Brazilian Association of Audiovisual Production, raised concerns about how streaming platforms and international collaborations might be impacted. In Colombia, where a significant portion of local film production is tied to international projects, experts warned that such tariffs would undoubtedly have a negative effect. As the situation unfolds, the global film community watches closely, uncertain of the future and the potential consequences of these proposed tariffs. Sujata Lochab for DD India.
Now, Roman Catholic cardinals are due to start the second day of the papal conclave on Thursday to elect a new head of the church. Day one on Wednesday ended with black smoke, signaling that the throne of St. Peter's remains vacant for now. Some 45,000 people gathered outside St. Peter's Basilica to wait for a signal from the sequestered electors, even as news was unlikely on the first day. The 133 cardinal electors will cast 4 rounds of voting every day until the Catholic Church's new leader is found. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Chennai registers third win of this season with a 2-wicket win over Kolkata in the Indian Premier League cricket. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. Big breaking that we are following right now. Pakistan's bid to escalate has been negated. A proportionate response by India has been given. During the press briefing on Operation Sindoor on 7th May 2025, India called its response as focused, measured and non-escalatory. It was specifically mentioned that Pakistani military establishments had not been targeted. It was also reiterated that any attack on military targets in India will invite a suitable response. On the night of 7th and 8th May 2025, Pakistan attempted to engage a number of military targets in northern and western India, including Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Kapurthala, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Adhampur, Bhatinda, Chandigarh, Nal, Faludi, Uttarlai and Bhuj using drones and missiles. So these attacks were neutralized by the integrated counter UAS grid and air defense systems. The debris of these attacks is now being recovered from a number of locations that prove the Pakistani attacks. And today morning, Indian Armed Forces targeted the air defense radars and systems at a number of locations in Pakistan. The Indian response has been in the same domain with same intensity as Pakistan. It has been reliably learnt that an air defense system at Lahore has been neutralized. Pakistan has increased the intensity of its unprovoked firing across the line of control using mortars and heavy caliber artillery in areas in Kupawara, Baramulla, Uri, Poonch, Mendhar and Rajouri sectors in Jammu and Kashmir. So 16 innocent lives have been lost, including 3 women and 5 children due to Pakistani firing. Here too, India was compelled to respond to the mortar and artillery fire from Pakistan to a halt. So this is the breaking at the moment that we are tracking, and DD India's Akshay Dongre joins me on the story. Akshay, that is huge. Indian Air Force very quick and swift in its action here. What more can you tell us about these retaliatory strikes by India? So Pakistan's bid to escalate has been negated. There has been a proportionate response by India. India has affirmed that if attacked, it will give a befitting response in a very, very strong way. And today morning, the Indian Armed Forces targeted air defense radars and systems at a number of locations in Pakistan. So Indian response has been swift in the same domain with the same intensity. It has been reliably learnt that an air defense system at Lahore has been neutralized. And apart from this, Pakistan has increased the intensity of attacks across the line of control. 16 innocent lives have been lost, including 3 women and 5 children due to the Pakistani firing. So Indian Armed Forces here reiterating their commitment to non-escalation, but if attacked, will give a very, very firm response. So, as was expected, there has been a bid to escalate by the Pakistani military, and India's response very proportionate, very decisive, very swift at the moment. This is a very big development coming at this hour. India had launched Operation Sindoor, and any retaliatory action was expected, of course, but India said that these attacks were non-escalatory in nature, but were only targeting those who carried out the Pahalgam terror attack on April 22nd. I am now joined by my correspondent Dipendu Mondal on the story. Dipendu, what more can you tell us on these retaliatory strikes by India?
Well, Tanvi, we just got some news that that Pakistan on the intervening night of 7th and 8th of May, Pakistan attempted to engage a number of military targets in northern and western India, including the cities of Avantipura, Srinagar, Jammu, Pathankot, Amritsar, Kapurthala, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Adampur, Bhatinda, Chandigarh, Nal, and a couple of other cities, including the city of Bhuj in Gujarat, using drones and missiles. However, the Indian armed forces responded in a very quick manner, and all their attempts were neutralized immediately through the defense system and the neutralized by integrated counter UAS grid and air defense system. So therefore, the Pakistan's attempt to target these Indian cities through the missile system and through the drone systems of the Pakistani army have been thwarted by the Indian armed forces by using the air defense system that we have in place in all these cities and in the bordering areas. So therefore, Pakistan wanted to escalate this, and Pakistan is clearly seen to be provoking India in retaliatory action that it is taking after India attempted to of course neutralized their terrorist camps that were operating in at least 9 locations in both Pakistan occupied Kashmir as well as in the cities of Kashmir. And therefore India also, the news coming in Tanvi, is also that that Pakistan, Indian armed forces have also destroyed a air defense system in Lahore, and therefore this is something big, and which Indian armed forces have successfully been able to destroy an air defense system in Lahore. So therefore, the Indian armed forces giving a clear message to Pakistan that all their attempts to provoke India as well as carry out any retaliatory measures against India and its cities, against the civilians, will be thwarted and fought tooth and nail and be given a befitting reply by the armed forces. So therefore, this is big news, Tanvi, that we can report at the moment, that Pakistan is trying to escalate it, and they had fired some missiles on these, targeting these cities that we named, and in retaliatory measures, the Indian Army, the Indian Air Force have already destroyed their air defense system in Lahore. This is what we can report at this moment.
Okay, a word on India's swift action, Dibyendu, the air defense system of India, which has actually, foiled these attempts by the neighbor compared to air defense system of Lahore.
Well, Tanvi, we have these air defense systems very strategically placed in different locations, and therefore, any attempt by Pakistan that they try to, provoke India, or any attempt by Pakistan to send their missiles into the Indian borders will be thwarted, and therefore, swift action by the shield or the defense systems that are put in place in the bordering areas have been activated, and the border in fact the border guards as well as the Indian Air Force are actively monitoring the situation on the ground, and therefore all attempt by Pakistan will of course be thwarted tooth and nail, and fought tooth and nail.
Okay, and in New Delhi, a lot of meetings have already been taking place since morning. The most recent one being with the chief secretaries. Tell us about the emergency preparedness, Dibyendu, a bit about what all advisory has been issued to states in this, hour of need and hour of great sensitivity.
Well, Tanvi, of course, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi have held a meeting, a high-level meeting with all the chief secretaries of, in fact, the chief secretaries as well as the secretaries of the Government of India with various ministries. This comes at a time, when there are heightened tensions between India and Pakistan, and of course, the Defence Minister also said today that Operation Sindoor is not over yet, and therefore it's an ongoing operation, and therefore this meeting was held by the Prime Minister to, so that all the ministries act in coordination to bring in more synergy between all the ministries, and also to brief them about what preparedness and what actions can be taken in case of any eventualities. And this, of course, this coordination among all ministries, amongst all the security agencies and forces and the armed forces is the result that India has been able to successfully curb all measures being taken by Pakistan to disturb peace here in India. And of course, as we have been just breaking that that Pakistan had been trying to send their missiles into this number of cities, and this is, of course, this coordination and the coordination and cooperation between states and the center, as well as all the different ministries, is a result of a successful operation by the Indian Armed Forces. Tanvi.
Earlier, Dibendu, Jaishankar with Dr. S. Jaishankar with in his meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said very clearly that these attacks were non-escalatory in nature, the terrorist strikes the day before. But if attacked, India stands ready to resolutely respond in a very, very firm and decisive way. And this action coming by India now, a proportionate one, a very swift one, and in fact a very successful one to neutralize these, this volatile security situation. And of course, so give us a sense of how swift this response has been. And as you were telling us, reiterate once again for our viewers that the air defense system in Lahore has been targeted and destroyed.
Well, absolutely. India has been very clear that India's action on these terrorist camps were absolutely non-retaliatory, and it was unprovocative. It was just to weed out terrorist camps that had been operating on the land of Pakistan and the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir to wage a proxy war against India, and therefore this was the attack was so precise that it did not target any civilian areas or any military establishment. It was attempted to to destroy the terrorist camps that had been waging a war against India. In fact, a state-sponsored proxy war against India. So therefore, this had nothing to do with the Pakistani government or the Pakistani military establishment or the civilians. But despite that, Pakistan did provoke and send these retaliatory missiles to attack on the important cities of India, and India in response was able to thwart that, to neutralize all those missiles that were aimed at the Indian cities much before it could enter into the Indian borders. And therefore the armed forces' quick response and the strategically placed air defense system that is placed in various cities across India have been able to bring down all the missiles that were aimed to disturb the harmony, peace, and wage a war against India. But in retaliatory, Indian armed forces did launch an attack on the city, on the air defense system in Lahore, and have been able to successfully destroy the air defense system in Lahore. This is what is coming in at this moment from the armed forces. Tanvi.
Yes, Dibendu, a lot of disinformation campaign has been spreading online, and of course these are from Pakistani handles, some of which have been refuted by Pakistani citizens themselves. Now, when these drone strikes and these missile strikes have been neutralized, the debris will eventually become proof of Pakistan's escalation?
Well, of course, Tanvi, the debris will of course become a proof of the escalation of Pakistan, because those can be traced back, those missile parts of the debris could be traced back to the origins and from where they came into the Indian land. And of course that can be traced back, and Pakistan can be brought to books by the international community for waging a war, to escalating the matter and to escalating a war with India, because all the nations, remember, and India have also been trying to call for that India's measures were very measured. India has acted maturely. It did not want to escalate with Pakistan. So therefore the messaging is clear that India is not escalating, and it is Pakistan that is escalating the matter here, because India's aim was to only, and its objective was to only target the terrorist camps that were waging war against India. But however, Pakistan in its retaliatory measures is trying to target the civilian areas. Remember, the continuous shelling that is happening in the civilian areas in the Jammu region, as well as in parts of Kashmir in the line of control, is a method of escalation by Pakistan. And as of now, what the army is reporting, that we have reportedly lost at least 15 people in these firings that have that have been happening since Operation Sindoor began in Pakistan, and Pakistan retaliating on the civilian areas across the line of control. And therefore, the Indian Armed Forces is giving a tough reply by destroying the air defense system at Lahore, which has been neutralized now.
Yes, so India stands alert, India stands firm in its fight against terror. Thank you very much, Dimendra Mondal, for joining us on this story. That's all in this edition of DD India News Hour. We'll keep tracking the big developing story at the moment. The air defense system in Lahore has been neutralized. India stands ready if attacked, and that is what it is doing at the moment. News and updates continue on DD India. Thank you for staying with us. Namaskar.